Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're going through some of your personal notes, and wow, this is a fascinating one.
Mm-hmm.
You've been reflecting on the spiritual teachings of Taoism and Christianity,
Right.
and you found some really intriguing parallels about living a more ethical and meaningful life.
It really is a testament to how, these age-old wisdom traditions, they really grapple with these universal questions.
Yeah,
Offering guidance that kind of transcends those cultural boundaries.
absolutely. Now, one phrase from your notes really jumped out at me. For a person with virtue, heaven constantly helps. You've connected this specifically to the Zinan Temple in Taiwan.
Right.
And it's a phrase that, well, it resonates, doesn't it?
It does.
It's like a fortune cookie, but with a depth that begs further exploration.
It's a fundamental tenet in Taoism, and it speaks to this beautiful interconnectedness between personal virtue and cosmic harmony.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not about a transactional reward system, like some celestial scoreboard.
Right.
It's more about aligning yourself with the natural flow of the universe.
Yeah.
With the Tao.
This makes me think about your experiences with divination, which you've also highlighted in your notes.
Yeah.
You mentioned consulting deities, especially Lu Dongbin, a prominent figure in the Taoist tradition.
Yes.
It sounds like you're exploring how to balance personal initiative with this idea of divine guidance.
Yes, and Lu Dongbin, often depicted as a scholar who achieved immortality, is a fascinating guide to consider in this context.
Okay.
He's known for testing his followers.
Lu Dongbin's instructions. That must have been unsettling.
It is a reminder that genuine compassion can't be faked or forced. It has to come from within.
Right.
Even when following divine guidance, the heart behind the action is paramount. It's not just about ticking boxes, but about cultivating a deep and genuine concern for others.
So it's not enough to just play by the rules. It's about embodying the spirit behind them.
Absolutely.
Which makes me think about your experience with Qigong, another deity you've mentioned.
Okay.
It seems even without prior devotion, acting with virtue can invite unexpected guidance.
Precisely Qigong, known for his unconventional ways and compassion for the downtrodden, embodies that idea of grace. Your experience with him suggests that aligning with virtue, even unconsciously, can open us to unforeseen support.
It's like the universe has a way of noticing when we're genuinely trying to do good, even if we haven't, formally pledged allegiance to a particular path.
Yeah.
Which brings to mind that quote from the Christian Gospels you highlighted. There is no one good but God alone. It's a powerful statement.
It is.
And it seems to resonate with that Taoist concept of aligning with the Tao.
Absolutely. Both traditions, despite their differences, kind of acknowledge this force greater than ourselves, a source of true goodness that we can, tap into.
And yet you also mentioned a fear of your actions becoming, habitual rather than heartfelt.
Like, even if you're technically doing the right thing, it loses its meaning if it's not fueled by, genuine compassion.
Yes, and that really resonates with the passage you pulled from the Shiji, where you're questioning the value of offerings and chanting if they become merely, transactional.
Right.
It's like you're really wrestling with this idea. Are you acting from a place of genuine love and understanding? Or are you just going through the motions to get what you want?
Like a cosmic vending machine, as we were joking about earlier. But this isn't about manipulating the universe for personal gain.
Right.
It's about cultivating a deeper connection, a more authentic expression of, virtue.
Exactly.
And that brings us to your experience of being tested by Lu Dongbin.
Yeah.
You wrote about receiving consistent no answers during divination.
Sensing his displeasure even when you couldn't understand why.
Yeah.
Sounds like you were going through a tough love phase of spiritual development, something I think a lot of us can probably relate to. What was your response to this seeming impasse?
Well, what's striking is that you didn't give up or, become defensive.
Yeah.
Instead, you humbled yourself and you asked for guidance. You were open to that possibility that you were missing something, even if it wasn't immediately clear.
That takes courage, I think, to admit you don't have all the answers.
It does.
Especially when dealing with, a deity.
Right.
What did you learn from that experience? What was Lu Dongbin trying to teach you through this period of, testing?
He was highlighting this crucial difference between, simply following instructions and embodying the heart behind them. You had become so focused on the mechanics of fulfilling his guidance that you'd lost sight of the underlying intention.
Right.
It became, as you put it, a cold execution of tasks rather than an expression of, genuine compassion.
It's a subtle but profound distinction.
It is.
The difference between acting out of obligation
Yeah.
and acting from a place of true understanding and love.
You wrote a line in your notes that really encapsulates this. The behavior itself might be correct, but if the heart isn't in it, it's meaningless.
Wow.
It reminded me of a quote from the Sufi mystic Rumi. Beyond right doing and wrongdoing, there is a field. I'll meet you there.
That's beautiful, and it speaks to a level of, spiritual maturity that goes beyond simply following rules. You're seeking that place of inner alignment where your actions flow naturally from a deep well of compassion and understanding.
And it's in that space, that field beyond right and wrong, where true virtue resides.
This is such rich material, and I'm eager to delve even deeper into your insights.
Okay.
But before we do, let's take a short break to kind of, absorb all this. We'll be right back to continue our deep dive into your spiritual explorations.
And we're back diving deeper into your reflections on Taoism and Christianity. And clear that you're seeking that place beyond right doing and wrongdoing, as Rumi describes it. But it's not always easy to find that field, is it? I mean, you've also written about the challenges of staying true to this path, even when you're striving for authenticity. Absolutely. It's a process of continual refinement, not a destination we arrive at. Yeah. And there will be moments when we falter, when we lose sight of that inner compass.
You mentioned that experience with Qigong where he kind of intervened even though you hadn't specifically sought his guidance in that moment.
Right.
Made me think, what if simply trying to live virtuously, even unconsciously, puts us on a path where we're more receptive to that guidance?
What's fascinating is that your experience seems to align with that core Taoist principle we discussed earlier. For a person with virtue, heaven constantly helps. It's not about earning favors, or brownie points, but about aligning ourselves with the universal force of goodness.
So it's less about asking, what can heaven do for me?
Right.
And more about aligning ourselves with that natural flow of virtue, of the Tao.
Yeah, precisely. And this is where your exploration of Christianity adds another layer of depth. That quote you highlighted, "There is no one good but God alone," invites a sense of surrender to a higher power.
Yeah.
Acknowledging our own, limitations.
Which seems to resonate with that Taoist concept of Wu Wei, actionless action, or effortless living in accordance with the Tao.
Yes. It's not about passivity,
right,
but about aligning our actions with a higher will, however we choose to define that. And that alignment often requires, surrendering our need to control to dictate the terms.
So we've covered a lot of ground here, exploring this idea of aligning with a higher purpose, cultivating genuine compassion, and finding that delicate balance between personal responsibility and surrender. What does this all mean for our listeners who are on their own, spiritual journeys? Mm-hmm. What can they take away from your explorations?
Mm-hmm. I think your journey highlights the importance of staying open to, diverse sources of wisdom, trusting your inner compass, and recognizing that this is an ongoing process of, discovery. Mm-hmm. It's about continually seeking that place of inner alignment where our actions flow naturally from a place of love and understanding.
And on that note, we've reached the end of our deep dive. Mm-hmm. But I want to leave you with one final thought, something to ponder as you continue your own exploration. You've been reflecting on how heaven helps those who are virtuous. But what if we turn that around? What if instead of focusing on what heaven can do for us, we ask, what can we do for heaven? How might that shift our understanding of virtue, of purpose, of our place in the universe?
That's a beautiful question to, sit with.
It is, isn't it? And on that note, we'll leave you to contemplate that. Thanks for joining us on this journey of self-discovery. Until next time, keep diving deep.